What's up, superhumans? BT here. 2 months ago, 8 Sleep sent me this. This is the Pod4, their newest pod, and they had me make a video highlighting all of its cool new features. Well, here we are 2 months later, and I think I've had it long enough to give you a short-term review. Don't worry, closer to that 12-month mark, I will be releasing a long-term review highlighting its performance and how it's held up. What can you expect from this video? I'm going to be sharing with you my opinions on the changes made to the pod, the cover, the app, and the pricing structure. And as you'll see, I'm going to be pretty critical of some of those areas. I'm not too fond of some of the decisions that they've made, but I will also share some high praise for other decisions that they've made. As stated with that first video, 8 Sleep did not pay me to make this video. They did, however, send me the pod, Pod 4, the Pod 3, and the Pod 2. You might have seen a banner that comes across this video that says paid promotion. That's because whether you are getting paid or accepting something of monetary value, you are required to put that. And I think you should be informed in the relationship that I have with 8 Sleep. Now, they have no say in this video, nor have they seen the script early, but they are involved because I asked them for their help in answering some of the more technical questions I didn't have the info for. Things like, how much power does this thing draw when it's at its max cooling level and at idle? Things of that nature. Finally, I'm going to be giving you my recommendations and answering the question, should you buy it? Is it worth it? And if not, which device should you buy? Well, there you have it. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's get into the review. This is the Pod 4, and there are some differences of the actual pod, not just the cover, compared to the Pod 3. Namely, its footprint. It's a little bit bigger than the Pod 3. I don't know, for some of you, maybe that's frustrating because it's already kind of big, but there are some benefits that come with that. Namely, thermals. It is much better at regulating heat than the previous version. Whenever electronics get hot, they don't perform well. But there are a few things they've done to improve this. One, the size, right? Just better airflow, bigger body, it can regulate temperature better. Two, they've put these vents on both sides that run the entire length of the pod. It can dissipate heat much more effectively. On the Pod 3, they were just small little vents that just occupied the middle bottom of the pod. They've also included a whole extra fan in the back. Instead of one single fan, it now has 2 fans. So again, it can regulate temperature much better. My biggest gripe with the Pod 3 was simply it took so long for you to reach the temperature that you selected. Like if you were going from -3 to -10, it could take like 45 minutes to an hour. Now it does it in like half that time, maybe even less. Another side effect that's come from the size increase is now it's much quieter. Okay, so the Pod 3 is about 3 feet away from me, about where I would have it upstairs too, and where most people would have it is about 3 feet away. The noise level at full bore, this is cooling down to -10 from that far away, is just about 40 decibels. Much quieter than the Pod 3 at only 24, 25 decibels. So with it kicked on to high at the same temperature reading as the Pod 3, so at the same time that was at -5, this one's at -5, going to -10, we got 34 to 35 decibels. I want to say the noise is substantially less than the Pod 3. Other things that they've done though, aesthetically, that I do think are nice, is this felt is a much more matte color that matches the pod itself. It doesn't kind of stick out as that kind of gray. It's much softer. Not that people are rubbing this, but it is nice to touch, and the 8 is matte black. Now on the back side, I can show you, it's kind of hard to see. This is where those 2 fans would be, but if you notice, the ports to stick the cover in now just shoot out of the back, out of the bottom, which is so much easier to install that cable. On previous versions, you actually had to run up and plug it in, and this is just far more effective. So yes, it's a little bit bigger, but honestly, nothing but positives have come from it. This is the new Pod4 cover, and basically 8 Sleep overhauled everything about it. And for the most part, I'd say every change that they made was for the better. The first big change that they made is just in how you attach it to the cover. In the Pod 3, it was this kind of complicated zipper system. 2 pieces sandwiched together, held together by a zipper. Now, when you finally got it on there, because it was kind of a chore, it was very tight and it looked very nice. However, for this one, it's basically like a giant fitted sheet, which means it takes almost no effort at all to install it, which I love. The only thing that could be seen as a negative is that it's a little looser and therefore it can bunch a little easier. I've not personally taken an issue with it though. When it does kind of bunch up, it's ever so slight. The second thing they did is somehow they've made it so much thinner. They've made the pad that you sleep on, the cover pad, much, much thinner. And they've made the tubes thinner. And because of this, it is incredibly comfortable. On the Pod 3 cover, every once in a while, you could kind of feel the grid. It was a 1" by 1" grid, like this waffle pattern. And while you were moving around, you could kind of feel it. Very comfortable, but you could feel it. You can't even notice it on this version. They also changed the shape of the grid. It's no longer a grid. Now it's just a big, snaky, flowy design for the tubes. And what this has done, which is one of the best things that it's done, is there's no bottlenecking of water, which means when you set a temperature, it can change that temperature much faster. In the Pod 3, you ran into bottlenecks and it could take a really long time for you to feel a temperature change. Now I said almost all of the updates they made for this new cover are for the better. There is one that is for the better, but in practice, it's one of my biggest gripes about the whole system, and that's the new Haptic Pad. This is the Haptic Pad. What it allows you to do for the first time ever on a pod sleep system is allow you to change the temperature of your bed without getting into the app. Because the Pod 2, the Pod 3, they all have to be controlled via the app. So this is how it works. You tap on the pad to either make it go up or down. 2 taps to make it go lower in temperature, 3 taps to go higher in temperature. So there's 2 taps. Here are 3 taps. You might be waking up your partner just from that because you're moving the bed, you're whacking the bed. Like, that's kind of silly. More than once my wife is waking up to me smacking this thing. Number 2, this is probably my bigger issue. Now that I've had this for a few months, the force that it takes, I'm pretty consistent with. But for the first month, let's say I had to raise the temperature up 1, that's 3 taps. Oftentimes, it would not register the first tap, but the second 2, making it go lower. So then I went, oh my gosh, now I got to do it again to make up for that, and then do it once more to get to the temperature I originally wanted. And I can't tell you how many times after doing that, it just kept going lower. And I'm like, my God, my wife would wake up. I'd have to go into the bathroom, take out the app, change it anyway if she wasn't awake, because I wouldn't want to wake her up by pulling out a screen. Guys, smart in theory, horrible in practice. You should have just gone with 2 simple buttons. Click, click, right? You could differentiate between temperatures with just a simple texture change on the button, like a raised surface. So much easier. This thing, my wife loves it because she only changes the temperature every once in a while, and she only has to change it 1 click. But my temperature fluctuates like crazy. Thank God for autopilot. But next version, just a simple 2-button, very easy to click. I don't want to rely on tapping and having precise force. And areas of this pad are not as sensitive as others. I bet you it varies with manufacturing, but for me, this bottom corner right here seems to be the most sensitive and accurate. Anywhere up in here, it doesn't register that well. So I really like that it's on here, but in practice, it's been kind of a nightmare and to me, a pretty big miss. 8 Sleep has also told me that it's much more durable, which is great because I've had my Pod 3 for a little over a year now and we've had no issues whatsoever. I find it to be much more durable than their competitors that I've used in the past. So to hear that they've made it thinner, more comfortable, it works better with temperature change and it's more durable, that's awesome. And again, I've only had this thing for a few months. In 12 months time, after a year, I'll do a big 12-month update and let you know how the durability is. Let's talk about the app. First of all, I'm going to say this iteration of the app has come a long way and it is far better than all of the previous iterations. As somebody who has multiple pods, very lucky to have multiple pods, just the fact that I can control both now from this app and it doesn't require me to have multiple accounts, an account for each pod, is amazing. Lots of quality of life changes they've made to the app and I think it's way better. But up until Pod 4, the only way you could control the pod system and get your vitals, your health metrics, was via the app. Now that you have that little haptic pad, you can do that physically outside of the app, but for everything else, you're gonna need the app. Thankfully, like I said, it's a very simple app. Here is the home screen, the menu. There are 4 pages to this plus a menu, but it's not really a menu. The top right-hand corner, you got those 3 little buttons. You click on that. You're gonna see all of your pods. If you have multiple, when you click on it, you're gonna get the basic information for that pod. All right, so this is where you can do maintenance, device settings. You could remove the pod if something were to happen and it's not showing up and customer service wants you to remove it and then re-add it. This is where you would do it. But that's it. That's really all you do on that page. Your main page, you're gonna see your bed and what side of the bed you are typically on. Here, I could turn on the pod if I wanted to. Right now it's off. I got my sleep fitness score, my alarm, my heart rate. I can also look at my HRV, my deep sleep, my REM sleep. Obviously, it's got those health metrics. We'll talk about that here in a second. Down on the bottom are those pages. So 4 total pages, including the home screen. Next to that is your sleep temperature and schedule maker. All right, so right now it is on. If I turn it on, I can very easily change the temperature to what I want. And if you notice, when I start to change the temperature, it brings up, do you want to make that change for tonight only, or should we apply that to your normal sleep schedule? And I'm going to say that's like a tonight only thing. Below that, autopilot is on. What is autopilot? Autopilot is basically a smart system that gets to know you, so it controls the temperature rather than you having to do it manually. Now, I think it requires 7 days of turning autopilot on and sleeping with it, but it monitors various things. It monitors your health metrics. It monitors how many times you're tossing and turning. It monitors the changes you make to the temperature and also the ambient room temperature. After 7 days, it builds like a little profile on you and it starts to make the changes for you. And you can actually see like how many, like right here it says 2,032 autopilot interventions. So even though my schedule might show me to start off at -10 and go to -2, and it would normally move me through there, if it feels, it detects something's about to happen, it might manipulate something to keep me asleep longer and give me a better night's rest. What do I think of it? I love it. I love autopilot. Like I said, thank God for autopilot. The haptic buttons are cool, but they're often just annoying to interact with. But because autopilot is so good, I've used it for so long, I almost never have to come into the menu and make a change. I think it's amazing. And now, with Pod 4, you get snoring detection and snoring autopilot. If you are a snorer, and you're thinking about getting one of these, I highly recommend looking at the Pod4 Ultra. And the reason being is with the Pod4 Ultra, it's this brand new base. So when autopilot and the pod starts to detect snoring, it can intervene on your behalf and raise the bed on its own to get you to stop snoring. Like on our Purple mattress, it's cool, it does the same thing, but I have to raise it. So I've got to wake up, raise it, then fall back asleep, and then lower it. This does it on its own. It's wild. I can also set my schedules, my sleep schedules. I can also look at the autopilot profile. But below that is the sleep schedule. This thing is pretty awesome. It's based on the sleep schedule that you're in. So bedtime, early, late, and then your wake up alarm. So you can see how mine goes from -10 to -2, early, late, yada, yada, yada. Super easy to navigate. Two things that are in the pod system, two different kinds of alarms that are both pretty cool. I only use one of them, but you might like them both. But essentially, if I click on that, I can set an alarm. And one is the warm awake, and that's what you see, this like +5. So my favorite way of being woken up and having it feel natural, the least jarring possible, is the warm awake. So the bed basically just heats up, and that's what wakes you up, and it's very natural and very calming. You're not like jarred awake by, a normal alarm clock or something on your wrist. But if you want something like that, you can also go in and turn on your vibration alarm. So right now the thermal alarm is on, but vibration is not. If I turn it on, I can set the pattern to gradual, or I can have it be heavy, which is just longer, heavy pulses. And then I can, if you have it on gradual, you can choose the strength at which you want that to pulse. Remember the haptic pad, when you click it twice, you can hear it go vroom, vroom. Well, that's because it's got that like little vibration sensor around your chest. And so that's what vibrates to wake you up in the morning. And you can determine whether or not you like that or not. I don't personally like it. I think it's a little too jarring for me. Some people do. So we'll cancel out of that, done. But that is everything thermal. Next to that is your routine. Your routine's a little different than your sleep schedule. You make a sleep schedule for the day, and then if you need different days, if you want a routine that's different, like your weekdays are different than the sleep routine you have for your weekends, that's where you would add it. For me, it's all the same all the time. So I don't have multiple ones, but this is where you would make it, all right? And then on the final page are all of your health metrics. So I've got my sleep fitness score, and all of these, if you click on them, you can see weekly, monthly, 6-month, and a year breakdown of everything, just FYI. But I've got my sleep fitness score. My fitness score is determined by my quality, my routine, my time slept. Routine would be, are you matching up with your sleep routine? Sleep routine is very important when you want to improve your sleep. You're trying to go to bed at the same time every night. You're trying to wake up at the same time every night. There's my quality, and that's broken down by a hypnogram. Those are just the stages of sleep that I'm in for how long: awake, REM, light, deep. Health metrics are broken down by heart rate, HRV, and respiratory rate, breathing rate. And again, if I click on that, I can break it down by day, week, month, 6-month, and year. So I've really prioritized sleep over the last 6 months, and thankfully I can actually see it tracking downward for my respiratory rate. My heart rate variability is going up. Resting heart rate is coming down. It's nice. I've always been good with routine. I'm at 96%. Sleep latency just means how long it takes you to fall asleep. And I know I have incredibly good latency. Normally, if I close my eyes and I'm ready to fall asleep, I'll be asleep within a few minutes or two. Or maybe even less. And then time slept, it gives me what my optimal is and how long I actually slept. And then you can rate it thumbs up or thumbs down if the data was accurate. But that's it. That's the entire app. It's super simple. It used to be way more convoluted and complicated. They've done a great job slimming it down and making it very, very easy. Nice work. Eat Sleep. How much is this going to cost you? Big question. Price. Right now, the Pod 3, the Pod 4, and the Pod 4 Ultra are all still available on 8 Sleep's website. I am not sure how much longer the Pod 3 will be there because that is their last version. That being said, each of these, the price I'm going to give you is for the Queen. All right, so for the Pod 3, it's $2,245. For the Pod 4, it's $2,499. And for the Pod 4 Ultra, that's $3,949. Remember, the Pod 4 Ultra is the cover, the pod, and the base, the adjustable base that raises for sleeping, relaxing, reading, and of course, that snoring mitigation. And right now, those prices reflect a current sale that's going on. You can also save some extra money. There is a code, a little discount code down in the description that you can stack on top of that sale price. No matter which pod you decide to buy, there is going to be an extra cost. 8 Sleep charges $15 a month for autopilot. For the first year, you can cancel after that. Or if you want the same features, the same autopilot subscription, but with an enhanced 5-year warranty instead of a 2-year warranty, that's $24 a month. Well, what's included with autopilot? Well, now it's a little different than it used to be. Autopilot now includes all of your automatic temperature regulation, whether that is the sleep schedule that you set that I showed you in the app, or all of the little micro interventions it makes throughout the night. It also includes sleep reports and all of your health metrics, the 2 alarms, both vibration and thermal, and also snoring detection. If you've got a Pod 4 or Pod 4 Ultra, that's going to include biannual filter delivery. So they're going to send you filters every 6 months to replace. And if you have the Pod 4 Ultra, that's going to give you snoring mitigation. So not just telling you that you snored, but it's going to adjust the bed automatically to help mitigate that snoring. Well, here's the big question. Is it worth it? To answer that, I'm actually going to use my buddy David, who recently just got a Pod 3.
But dude, I will tell you, we freaking love this thing. We've been telling everybody about it. We went back to Cincinnati to visit my family, and everybody, we're going, listen, you want to try something crazy. It's a little pricey, but it's worth it.
You more or less aren't you're not the hot sleeper in your family, Morgan is.
Yeah, but I'm sleeping so good with it.
Are you?
90, 94, 99. I've been getting great sleep, dude.
Awesome.
It's crazy, though, dude. I'll tell you, I seriously can't thank you enough. We've enjoyed the crap out of it.
Good.
Every time we've been we get in bed and we're like, oh.
Well, there you go. David thinks it's worth it. But is it worth it for you? Before we answer that question and help you figure that out, you need to know a few things. Number one, all of the 8 Sleep systems require a constant Wi-Fi connection. Unfortunately, right now, they don't have Bluetooth or an offline mode. I've been told this is something that's coming, but it's not here yet. Obviously, they can't put hardware in this device. They're not going to update it that way. They're just going to do it through firmware. But truthfully, they need to start having Bluetooth. You should be able to operate these without a Wi-Fi connection. Number 2, there is a mandatory 1-year subscription. If you go to checkout, notice that you're gonna either have to pay $17 a month billed annually or $25 a month billed annually. Now, after that, you can cancel the subscription, whatever, but you're left with very limited functionality. This is pretty disappointing because a lot of the features that are now a part of the subscription and that you lose if you cancel your subscription used to come standard when you just bought the hub and the cover. We're talking the automatic sleep schedule, the haptic and thermal alarm, all of your sleep reports and health metrics. All of those were just included. It just came in the system, and now they're behind the autopilot paywall, which is pretty disappointing. Number 3, they're big and they stand up tall. You can't slide them underneath your bed. That's a big con for a lot of people, and I get that. Number 4, obviously, the price. It's a premium product with a premium product price tag. Say that 18 times fast. But what are some of the pros? Well, some of the pros of 8 Sleep compared to other brands, I have not personally used BedJet, but I've used every single one of SleepMe's products. These are far, far more reliable. When I had the Uller and the Dock Pro, they were breaking basically every, I want to say 3 months. And on a constant nightly basis, the Bluetooth would fail, the automatic sleep schedule would fail. You were constantly filling the thing with water twice a week. I think I haven't filled this thing in probably 3 to 6 months, no lie. So maintenance and reliability are far, far better. They're also quieter and they have, I would say, cooler functions, honestly. Now, which one is worth it between these two, the Pod 3 and the Pod 4? Well, the Pod 3 being $2,250 and the Pod 4 being $2,500. Considering all of the pros that this has compared to this, I do think it's worth that extra $250. In my original video, I said just go with this if you're coming from nothing. If you've never had a sleep regulation device, a thermoregulation device, and you're going with an 8 Sleep for the first time, just get the Pod 3. Like, you wouldn't notice anything different. But that price gap has shrunk to the point where, like, yeah, just get this. It's much quieter. It's faster to heat up and cool down. The cover is much more comfortable and more durable. The venting is better. Like, it's just, everything's better on this. The only downside that I can see is that it's a little bit bigger. You do get the haptic tap to control feature, and whether you use that or not, you're not out anything because this one doesn't even have it. Now, if you are somebody that snores, and that's a big thing, I would highly suggest looking at the Pod 4 Ultra because that bed can adjust when it detects you snoring. So both of these can detect you snoring, but neither of them can do anything about it, and the Pod 4 Ultra can. So I would definitely suggest looking at it. It's a substantial price jump. You know, you go from $2,500 all the way to $4,000, so another $1,500. But you could replace your existing bed frame with it and use just that if you wanted to. So there you go. Hopefully you found this video helpful. And if you did, could you do me a solid and hit that like button? And then also consider subscribing. It's free. You can cancel at any time. I won't send you pesky notifications either. Anyway, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.